Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with Drink a Beer and Play a Game, and today we are really excited to have someone we've been wanting to get on the podcast for quite a while.
Yeah, we have a very special guest today. World Traveler. You will know him, if you live in the San Diego area, as one of the co-owners, I believe. Probably should have asked this first, of Luna Video Games.
The general,
you know him from the CUPodcast.
General manager.
General manager, okay. Don't want to step on any toes. You know him from the CUPodcast. He's Ian Ferguson, and we have him here today. Ian, how are you doing?
Hi, howdy. I'm great. I've got a beer here myself, and I'm sitting around in, I guess, what you could constitute pajamas. And I'm excited to be talking with you guys. We discussed, doing this over a year ago, and I'm bad about scheduling. So I apologize for the wait, but I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
So what you drinking today? I know it's a little early where you're at, but I appreciate you cracking a beer as well.
It's noon, and I knew I would be doing this, so I was like, that's fine. I'll drink in the afternoon. I have off. I am drinking a tall boy of Pabst Blue Ribbon because that's what's in my fridge.
I love it. Do you keep beer like? Do you just randomly, you'll just walk by a store and be like, all right, I'll just get like one or two at a time, or do you always have a healthy stock on hand?
Generally don't have what I would consider a healthy stock, but I usually grab like a 22 at night on my way home from work, like a bomber. Or if I've got friends coming over, I'll grab a 6-pack. I do generally buy beer most days of the week, but I don't keep it loaded up. That way, I can change what I'm drinking if my, shifts or something like that. I don't always want to load it up like a 12-pack of IPA or a stout because chances are that's not what I'm doing.
Gotcha. And I got to be honest. So one of the things I first recognized how awesome you were was when I would be watching the CU podcast, I was like, Ian always seems to have a beer there. And I noticed there was like Ballast Point or their bombers, like you're saying. And I was like, I really like seeing that because, I feel like not enough people, drink beer, talk about beer. And that right away got me to thinking that, since you moved, for those of you who don't know, Ian did move from Buffalo to San Diego. Mm-hmm. Do you have a preference between like West Coast, East Coast beers?
No,
I don't know if that's a thing for you.
No, not really. I like it all. So moving to San Diego, I always drank beer, always liked it. But moving to San Diego obviously I moved here in 2005. That put me right in the beginning of the craft beer boom in San Diego. Stone was just kind of starting out. They were getting big. Ballast Point and a lot of other small local breweries popped up, and they started putting out this really good craft beer. Eventually, IPAs kind of became the norm as opposed to the exception. It's impossible to go into a shop out here or into a restaurant and not find, just an insane amount of choices. I started trying them all and realized I liked them. IPAs were not something I had to get used to. I surprisingly liked them almost immediately. But I like bitter, and I like I'm big into bitter foods, bitter drinks, so it wasn't hard. So I love that stuff, but I also love porters. I love beers from the Washington and Oregon region, and I'll even drink, I don't know, what most people would consider piss water beer. Like, I love Canadian lagers and pilsners, and I'll buy a 6-pack of hams if that's what I feel like that day, and I'll just drink with friends. So, no real, hardcore preferences, but I always do like to try new IPAs and Imperial Stouts. Those are
Yeah, Imperial Stout, that's always been a go-to of mine. And it's funny you mentioned, as you said, the piss water. Everyone knows you, you're in the video game market, you're in the scene, you deal with those fans. I don't know how much you deal with beer fans, but I can't believe how snobby, quote-unquote beer experts or people who are way too into craft beer will shit on other people just for drinking like macro beers or whatever. And I find it's like amazing that people, like, of all the things to get an attitude about or to judge people about, it's like the type of beer you drink. I'm like, really, guy? Like, that's the thing?
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, I truly like some beer from basically every category. I don't like all beer. I'm not really gonna go out of my way to drink a Bud, but I don't know, if Miller Lights are what's cold and in the cooler, then I'm drinking Miller Lite. That's just how it goes. The only beers I really don't like are, I don't like Hefs. I don't like Hefeweizen. Wheat beers wheat beers are touch and go for me. But other than that, whatever's around is fine by me. It's odd. I don't follow any sort of beer scene or anything like that. But I mean, I gather that in basically any, I don't know, fandom you want to call it, words are escaping me. There's always going to be those people who want to judge, like very much so. And I don't know, especially when it comes to shit like games and beer, stuff that's supposed to be fun. I don't understand it. I can't get that. Like Natter Days, I fucking love that shit. I don't know if you've had that. Have you ever had?
No.
You've never had Natter Days. Okay, so
No.
Natter Days got really big out here this summer. It's natural lights. Natural
Jim's
light.
already
Speaking my
completely on
language.
board. Go ahead.
Natural Light made a strawberry lemonade beer called Natter Days. It comes in a pink case and it has flamingos on it. And my buddy and I, another quote-unquote beer snob, like not judgy, but like us, we like beer. A beer enthusiast. We stopped at the local liquor store on our way to come over here, and I think we were streaming something. And we're looking at, the beer in the case, and we're like, okay, we'll get like a 12. We'll get something, I don't know, cheap, whatever, that's fine, something we can crush. And both of our eyes fall on this pink and yellow case. and it says natural light Natter Days. And then underneath it says, for people who like drinking beer and strawberry lemonade. And John and I both looked at each other and we're like, are we those people? And we're like, yeah, we're those people. Let's try this. So we get back to the apartment, and I mean, we're dreading this the whole way home. We're like, granted, it's not a long ride, but we're like, did we make a mistake? Is this going to be like really awful? And we're like, yes, probably yes. So we get here, we open it, we both crack a can, clink cans together, and we both take a big pull, and like unanimously, we both put the can down and go, holy shit, it's good. Have you ever had like a Leinkugel's Shandy or something like that?
Oh yeah. They're surprisingly like, you're like, why do I kind of like this?
Those are our gateway drugs for like fruity craft beers back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. That's what this essentially tastes like, with a little bit of strawberry, and it's just incredibly refreshing. I did read an article that, there was like a surprising number of beer drinkers like did the same thing. They were like, this looks insane, so we'll try it even if it's bad. And like a lot of people, I think people who can admit that trash beer is good sometimes, a lot of those people are like, no, this is fantastic. Apparently it's like one of their best sellers in forever. It was selling out of stores. There was a time the liquor store right by here, like after we got it like the week after again, and then for like a month and a half we couldn't get it there. They just kept selling out.
Wow.
Did it piss you off? You're like, God damn it, I want more.
I mean, we could go to the grocery store and find it, but it sucked that it wasn't like 2 blocks over. But I highly recommend you go try that. Soon.
I think we're gonna have to at this point.
No, that's right up my alley. I'm a celebrated Keystone Light fan, so trash beer is always
nice.
But that's the thing is like some beer snobs, like we were saying, like God forbid something has other flavors outside of the hops or some of the yeast or anything, just what your atypical beer should have, like an IPA, and you introduce things like fruit and strawberry, it's right away people will turn down their nose. But if something's good, like it's pretty undeniable. It's like sometimes I like a little flavor in my beer.
Sure. Yeah, I've found that a lot is that a lot of people, if you mention fruit, they immediately have to say something about it like, well, I don't drink fruity beers. And it's like, okay. I mean, that's fine, but at this point, it's getting hard to avoid those. I mean, a lot of beers are starting to... I mean, there's only so much you can do with hops and different stuff like that. You can do a lot, but if you want something to stand out on the shelf, a lot of these breweries, especially in San Diego, are doing a lot of beers with, a hint of this fruit or a hint of that fruit. And it's not like any of these are overly sugary. They don't taste like juice or Kool-Aid. A lot of them you can barely discern it. I mean, if I handed someone, I don't know, like a Stone Tangerine Express, that's one of the more fruity ones. But if I don't tell someone and they take a sip of it, they're going to go, oh, that's beer. They're not going to say this is orange juice.
Speaking of fruit beer, that's actually... So knowing we were going to talk to you, I made sure I went out. I wanted to get a 6-pack of Ballast Point and a 6-pack of something from the East Coast to kind of do like a East Coast versus West Coast IPA. Nice. So I actually grabbed the Aloha Sculpin IPA. I don't know if you tried that yet.
I have had that one before, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like you're talking about fruit. So this thing, it says it has, mango, pineapple, and guava, but like you if you think about it, you might taste it, but otherwise you're just like, no, it's just a good IPA at 7% alcohol. So that's a perfect example. Like they added fruit in there, but this is not, I would not, consider this a fruit beer.
Right. An old favorite of mine, I don't drink a ton of Ballast Point anymore, but that's a different story for a different reason. The grapefruit Sculpin was one of my favorites. I loved it, and it tasted just different enough from the normal Sculpin to be different, but every time I would give it to someone, they couldn't tell there was grapefruit in it. I mean, that's the thing. IPAs are citrusy enough on their own. With the hops they use, you can get that hint of citrus that, adding a little something like grapefruit or tangerine or even pineapple isn't going to... I don't know.
It's not going to make it too sugary or sweet.
Right. They're not reinventing the wheel. They're not doing something completely out there. They're doing something that makes sense.
Did you ever try, and Jim hates this beer at this point.
Oh, I remember this one.
The habanero Sculpin?
Yes, I did, and I liked it, but it was not my favorite pepper beer. I like a lot of pepper beers. The habanero Sculpin I enjoyed, but not enough to buy it regularly. There's a Latitude 33 does one called Mango Vesa. That's it's a mango IPA with chili pepper, and it's the spice level wasn't what bothered me with the habanero Sculpin. It was just the habanero flavor itself was so
strong,
so upfront that it almost tasted a little artificial. Me. But the Mango Vesa and a lot of the other pepper beers I have do a really good job of like using the pepper to add heat, a little flavor, but not. Yeah, I don't know. That the habanero Sculpin, you take a sip of it and it tastes like there's hot sauce in beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I do. I put hot sauce in my beer, but like, let me make that decision. I don't necessarily.
You don't want the beer to be so infused that you're like, I want it to still be beer with a little bit of the flavor.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, Jim had the unfortunate...
We use it as a loser brew in our drinking game. Before.
So, like, if we do any type of drinking games and someone loses, I combine, like, the habanero Sculpin with, like, a stout. And you have to drink that combined.
That's mean.
Friggin' awful.
Yeah, I lost that day.
That's mean.
Jim's lost a couple times, and he's had to have a few interesting. It's always like, well, I have this like really old skunked beer and this pepper beer. Like you combine them together, but yeah. So Jim will never go near that again.
Yeah, I think the worst one was like it was a 2-year-old Miller Lite that was kept outside for the entire 2 years, and then it was combined with like a soft pretzel by Shock Top or something.
Oh no,
banana soft pretzel.
No, Yeah, it was like the dark chocolate shock top, like pretzel shit. No, it was just, and that beer had so much sediment in it, so it looked
curdled.
terrible. It was just, it was
Oh no!
That's one of those things that like ruins people. But when you talk about pepper beer, I'm curious. I don't know if you got it at San Diego, but when we first started this site, there was a beer out here called Ghostface Killer. It was like $5 to $10 for just a simple 12-ounce bottle. It was known to be the hottest beer around. I poured Jim half the bottle, and he threw up halfway through the glass.
Oh wow!
Like, it was so hot, and he's got a sensitive stomach, but
not the best with it.
It was It was one of those beers. It's like, why would anyone actually drink this?
It was also because we also killed off we each killed off a 6-pack of Stella right before we drank that too, so that did not mix well.
No, that wouldn't mix well at all.
But I was curious if you ever heard of that beer, the Ghostface Killer.
No, but I wish I had. He's my favorite musician. Well, he's my favorite rapper and one of my favorite musicians, so I would drink any beer that was, a reference to him. No, I haven't. I do really well with spice. I love spicy things, so
nice.
I would definitely try that if it was around. Like I said, I do like a lot of pepper beers. It would just depend on... I'd have to taste the flavor of it. Because honestly, a ghost pepper, I mean, they're hot, but there is a flavor. Just like habaneros are hot, but there's a flavor to it. Habanero is not my favorite tasting pepper, so yeah, there's a chance I would like that. I've never seen it, though. Do you know what brewery did it?
I have to look it back up, but I know, like, I always ask if at my local bottle shop, like, hey, you guys getting any more in? So if it ever comes in, I think I'll just have to send you a bottle because I want to get your take on it. If you like spicy beer, I'm really curious because I'm like you. Like, I'll put hot sauce on literally everything I consume other than maybe chocolate. I'll probably, put spice on. But yeah, that beer was like, holy shit, like unnecessarily hot.
Twisted Pine Brewing Company out of Colorado, apparently.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll look that up. It's funny because I make micheladas all the time. That's like my big thing. I love making micheladas, and I made one, and I called it the GFK for Ghostface Killer. But it was ghost pepper sauce in a gose with other ingredients, and it was just I freaking loved it. But I'd love to try to actually make it with a beer called Ghostface Killer. So,
dude, you were like oddly parallel to this brewery.
Yeah.
So one thing I was gonna do, and since the East Coast beer we got that we're gonna be trying in a second is actually from Victory, and I got that based on the story you told us last year, Too Many Games, and it was one of the topics we wanted to bring up to you is the first time getting drunk. And I remember you telling us it was Golden Monkey, unless I got that wrong.
No, you're right. So I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Then, I'll jump right in.
No problem.
No problem.
All right. So Golden Monkey by Victory. I'm not good at telling short stories. Sorry, fuck up.
No, take as much time as you want because we love the story the first time.
Okay. So it wasn't the first time I got drunk per se, but it was. First time I got drunk, probably in front of my parents, and I didn't know it was going to hit. So, little background: Buffalo, New York, especially in like 2001, 2002. Very depressed, working class city. Not a whole lot to do there except drink. Finding a bar that would serve you underage, not very difficult. So I'd been going to this bar called Anacones since I was probably 17, 18? 18. Yeah, 18. And it's one of those things where, like, my parents knew, and they were like, well, whatever, you just be safe, don't do anything fucking stupid. And I'm like, okay, thanks, Mom and Dad. So, anyways, we would go out to bars and stuff, and I was starting to... I didn't really drink in high school. I actually did other things in high school, but drinking wasn't wasn't one of them. Because to drink in high school, you had to hang out with the assholes. So after high school, hanging out with cooler people, we'd go to the bar, whatever. Everyone had a fake ID. One day, my one-time friend got his license, and his license back, I should say, and he had a state ID card that he no longer needed, which basically just looks like a New York State driver's license, only it's not valid for driving. And he looked just like me in the picture. Just like
that's perfect.
Me. No one thought my brother and I were brothers, but everyone thought this dude and I were brothers. So he gave it to me, because that's just how Buffalo was, especially then. So, anyways, jokingly one day, I told my parents about it. I was living away from home at this point, and my parents and I had a pretty, good, just conversational relationship. They were just like, well, okay, kids are going to be kids, I guess. So, my uncle is playing at this, my uncle was going to be playing at this bar. Can't remember what it was called, but it was a bar in Buffalo that was well known for having 151 varieties of beer.
Damn.
So my parents were like,
especially back then, that's really impressive.
Yes, I had never, now that's a lot of beer for one bar, but especially back then, I didn't even know there was 151 types of beer. That was insane. So my parents were like, hey, do you want to go see your uncle? He's playing at whatever it's called. And I was like, yeah, I can use this ID. And they're like, haha, okay, yeah, come on out. So I go, and I sit there. I'm sitting there with my mom, my dad, my one uncle, and two of my uncles. And, we're sitting around, shooting the shit, having beers, watching my other uncle play. And I'm going through all sorts of stuff on this list. I had, a blueberry stout, and I was drinking Red Stripes, which even then, a Red Stripe was like, oh, this is fancy.
I'm drinking that imported shit.
Woo! Yeah, exactly. So I'm going down the list, and I see one called Victory Golden Monkey. And I go, there's no way I'm not trying something called Victory Golden Monkey. I didn't know. It's just, whatever. It's just Golden Monkey. But I was like, I'll take one of those. So the bartender gives it to me, and I take a sip of it, and I'm like, oh, this is freaking good. Oh, the spices and all that stuff. And I'm like, man, this is great. And I keep pulling it down, and I finish it in probably, I would say, 5 minutes. And I'm like, whoa! And it's a 12-ounce bottle. Of, it's not like it was a pint or anything, but I'm like, whew. My mom's like, you all right? I'm like, I'm drunk. I'm drunk. I said, I don't know how that happened, but it just did. I went from fine to I am drunk, because I didn't have a tolerance or anything there. My mom's like, well, what were you drinking? And I was like, I don't know, this Golden Monkey. And she picks it up, and she spins it around and hands it back to me. And I look at it, and it's 9.5% alcohol.
Yep.
I had never experienced anything like that before. My knowledge of a high alcohol beer back then was, 6%. If you buy, we drank a lot of 40s and stuff hanging out at my apartment and my friend's apartment. And, those are always supposed to be higher alcohol. Depending on where you buy them from, some places Old English will be 7.5. Some places Old English is 6 or 5.9. So, out here in San Diego, Old English is 7.5. But there are places where it's only 6%. So, me thinking that malt liquor was as alcoholic as a, quote-unquote beer could get, did not set me up for the surprise of a beer like Golden Monkey that, quite literally almost put me on my ass. So, but yeah, Victory Golden Monkey, though, I do have to credit it with being the beer that made me realize that there was so much more out there. I don't even like it that much now, but I drink it, and I mean, it definitely opened my eyes to lots of different.
You get little nostalgia babies every time you drink it?
Yes, I do.
See, my first drunk was Molson Triple X at my brother's bachelor party when I was 18. And me not knowing any better, I was going beer for beer with a 300-pound ex-Marine. So even to this day, I don't slowly get drunk. I'm fine, sloppy mess.
Right.
So that's how it happened with this here. Now, it's also the first time I smoked certain things. So the bachelor party started at 1. I pass out by 5:30, and by 9:30, I'm puking for the rest of the night.
Oh, God.
So that was a crash course, which you think I would have learned from. But
yeah, I mean, mine's probably a little more embarrassing. Being a complete asshole the first time I got drunk, I did the kind of opposite. I started with shots of whatever, SoCo or some kind of whiskey, and then we were at a party, and a buddy was like, yo, do you want to go to a bar, pick up beer? Me and my best friend at the time never had beer. Once again, I'm completely admitting I'm an asshole for this, but I was like, I didn't know anything about beer other than Miller Lite, Bud Light, or me and my friend happened to like Fast and the Furious. So I was like, why don't I get Coronas? Because that's a cool beer. And sure enough, we each get a 6-pack of that. I remember peeing behind the bar and feeling really stupid because I didn't realize there was a group of people to the right of me. Like I was already feeling stupid. But then we go back, we finish that, put the limes in it, do the whole thing, and sure enough, I puked my guts up, all 6 bottles I drank that night. And yeah, that was my intro to beer that night. So yeah, thank you, goddamn Vin Diesel and Fast and the Furious for making me drink that.
I remember that plug in the movie being like very upfront. What are you drinking? Anything as long as it's a Corona, I think was the name. And I've seen that movie once, but it always stuck out as such like a blatant moment of
absolutely, yeah,
brand plugging that I've never forgot it. Like I honestly think of that when I see Corona.
Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't just me. So that's what stuck in our head. We're like at the time, like we had our shit. Like my buddy had a 97 Galant and I had a 97 Monte Carlo, and we friggin' put lights on it and put stupid shit on it. We're gonna go out racing and stupid shit like that because of that movie. And yeah, sure enough, we had to get Corona because of that stupid ass plug. So that's my embarrassing shit.
I had a Cavalier.
Ooh, I've never owned a car. I hate driving.
Well, so when you left Buffalo though, at that point, were you not driving at that point? Because I feel like Buffalo. Well, I don't know. I mean, you tell me. How is it in San Diego with not driving?
All right. So in Buffalo is kind of rough without driving. There's no good mass transportation system in Buffalo. There is one, but it sucks. Right before I moved out here, I finally learned how to drive and got my license just to kind of prove to myself that I could. Just driving. Terrified me. So I did. I moved out here, and first job I got was at a flower shop because I was a florist in Buffalo, so I had years of experience. So I apply, I get the job, and I applied as a stocker, a designer. Basically, I should have been taking care of stocking flowers as they come in and doing some arrangements. I get there, and they go, hey, you're going to be doing delivery for us instead. I didn't have room to argue because I needed the money. And this was, like I said, this was 2005. So this is before like GPS was a big deal and iPhones were a thing. I just moved to this damn city, and they hand me a stack of Thomas's guides or Thompson's guides.
God.
That's a way to learn a city.
Yeah, they hand me like 3 or 4 of them, and they tell me that this is the delivery list I need to make, and they said, and the van's out there, and it's a Ford E150 van, which is a rolling fucking blind spot. Those things are abysmal to drive.
And let me guess, no power side mirror, so you have to go out and manually adjust them.
Yes, actually, you're right. So, yeah, I did that for like 3 weeks. And then I was moving from the area. Like, I was moving from that part of the city to a different one. And I was like, I have to quit this job. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, I know, it's fine. And, yeah, I haven't driven since. Nothing about driving in San Diego was any fun. Not at all. And it's nothing compared to, like, LA or New York City or Toronto or any of these other bigger cities I've been to. So if I can't handle it here, I'm probably not.
Yeah, I mean more power to you, dude. If you don't have to drive, because driving can, I don't know what gets more rage inducing, playing a game that you can't beat or that you keep fucking up on, or just driving and sitting in stop and go traffic and having people like, I don't know what gets my blood boiling worse. Now that I'm thinking about it.
I was almost late here today because of traffic, so I'm going to go with traffic.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't know. San Diego is not great if you're not a driver, but the bus line, as long as you plan far enough in advance, it'll get you where you need to go. And the trolley lines, there's a lot of issues with them, but they tend to run along the areas where the most jobs are. So I can get to work and back pretty easily. Mass transportation out here. Now, if I want to go someplace like specific, then it's going to be a problem. There's no real quick way from point A to point B in a lot of places. Yeah. But anyways, it works. It's fine.
So it sounds like Philly, really.
Yeah, and I meant to ask you, like, all right, so you went from basically one extreme to another, going from Buffalo to San Diego, from a weather standpoint, I feel like population, from almost every aspect. And I guess the easy question, you've probably been asked this a million times, is do you have a preference? I mean, I feel like every time I've traveled outside the East Coast, since we're from Philly, but I know enough people from New York and even from Rochester and stuff, there's like a certain, I don't know if you want to call it cynicism or meanness that I feel like East Coast people have.
Oh, we're dicks.
And it's like I don't even know if dick's the right word. Like, you naturally you don't trust people.
We're aggressive. We're more aggressive.
Yeah, and when I meet people from the West Coast, I feel like they're blissfully naive about stuff. And I wanted to see if that's true to you.
It is. I prefer the East Coast attitude to the West Coast attitude 100 times over. On the East Coast, yeah, people are sarcastic, people are blunt, people are upfront. But that blunt and upfrontness is what I like. If I like you,
where you stand.
If I like you, you're going to know. And if I don't like you, you're going to know, and vice versa from other people. There's no beating around the bush. There's no room for... there's a lot less backstabbing with that sort of attitude. Mm-hmm. San Diego is, in California in general, is seen as a very laid-back place, and it is, but in a way I don't always appreciate. Everyone is kind of obsessed with the whole... we love everyone and all this shit thing, but it's not true. There's a lot of backstabbing out here. There's a lot of guessing. Does this person like me, or are they doing it to keep up appearances? On the East Coast, that doesn't happen. If I don't like someone, then fuck them. And that's just how it is. So, I'm happy out here. It's where my jobs are, how I met my wife. But in general, I do prefer the East Coast to the West Coast. And that's not a common thing.
Now, Ian, do you ever bring the East Coast out to the West Coast? Like, do you put a table on fire and jump through it when you go to Chargers games?
No, but that...
Oh, you don't bring Buffalo to San Diego? Come on now.
But maybe it's because I've never felt the need to go to a Chargers game. And now I can. So.
I don't blame you, to be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how do you deal with like that passive aggressiveness? Because to your point, if you don't like someone in the East Coast, I feel like there's a lot more like you're very blunt. You'll say I don't like you, or you'll hash that shit out really quick. But then you'll move on, and there's a bigger sense of community, probably because we have to deal with the friggin' cold that's so annoying here. That's more of a legit community versus where the West Coast folks, I feel like it's a fake community. Like, oh, we're all working together, but no one's near each other, and there's no like there's that tight-knit groupness is always kind of subsided by, oh, I don't know if I have time because of this and that.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there. I think a good way to put it is the West Coast is all about together. I don't want to sound too harsh on it, but what I get a lot of out here is it's all togetherness, but when it's time to actually come together and do things, it doesn't really happen. On the East Coast, it's like, I hate your fucking guts, but okay, there's a blizzard and you're stuck in the road, so I'm gonna push you out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's more of a willingness to put aside differences and help people when push comes to shove on the East Coast, even if they're not, even if not everyone's all lovey-dovey in the normal. Out here, it's everyone gets along, quote unquote, but when you really need someone or you need the help of your community, all too often I've seen that just fall apart, and it's not.
Did it also piss you off? We had a buddy who lived, I forget what area Eric lived in New York, but he was an East Coast guy all of his life, moved down to Florida, and I feel like every time I see someone move to either really warm weather areas, they were used to legit cold. And then when I see people from warmer areas talk about 70 or 60 degrees and they're like, ooh, we need jackets, we're cold. I'm like, motherfucker, that's shorts weather. What are you talking about?
Absolutely. I mean, it never really pissed me off, but my wife is she's Mexican American. She's lived here her whole life. And when we first started dating, in the winter, especially because
quote unquote,
the quote unquote winter, when I met her, when we really started to hang out, that was actually when a friend of mine from the East Coast was living out here with me for a couple of years. He was from Buffalo too, so it'd be January out here. I'd have the door open and all the windows open and shit. Sometimes maybe even a fan on. And she would come over and she'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? I need a blanket. Can you close that window? And
she's got sweaters on and shit. You're like, what the fuck?
Right. To that, I do like to joke with people and kid and whatnot, but I do understand that. If what you're used to is San Diego 10 months out of the year, your body's just not made for it. So, I would find a halfway thing. But yeah, it's funny to me when it gets to 55 and people are like, oh, it's freezing. And after being out here for 14 years, I'm like, all right, yeah. It's a little cold outside, but we're not suffering.
You don't miss going in a car at 6 a.m. and seeing the dashboard say 3?
Yeah.
Oh God. Or having to hack all the ice off your car, or because even though I never drove, my parents would be like, when I was a kid, go clear off the car, go shovel the driveway. I don't miss that shit. I do miss the cold. I'm not great with the heat, but I don't miss shoveling, scraping.
Now, have you been able to take Vonnie out to the Buffalo during one of those notorious winters so she really gets to experience cold?
Yes, definitely once, possibly twice. She's been home with me a number of times, but I can't remember how many those were winters. But the first time she came back east with me, it was for my cousin's wedding. And it was in December. It was December 29th.
Oh.
And
prime time.
They got married at this beautiful location outside, and everyone gathers outside to it wasn't rice or whatever, but they're supposed to be coming out of it wasn't a church, but the equivalent of. Yeah. And I think we were blowing bubbles or something like that. And we're out there standing, and all my cousins and nieces, nephews, and their friends, and all these women are standing outside in these beautiful dresses with nothing else. And the snow is coming down. And they're just everyone's ooh, it's a little cold, but they're just ready and waiting. And Vonnie's out there in a beautiful dress, and she's frozen. She's not moving. She's like, oh my God, this is insane. And I'm like, we'll be done in a second. But it's just I felt bad for her, but it was funny.
She's like, this may be the end of us.
Yeah. We took her to Niagara Falls that winter, too. And we went to one of the observation towers. And there was, like, cold mist blowing. And it was cold, but, you know, you pull your hoodie up or you jack it up, walk fast.
Get used to it, yeah.
Right.
As we're walking back from the observation tower, we're walking, and this huge gust of wind comes along, and it's blowing droplets up, and Vonnie literally just stops. And her jaw drops, and I'm looking at her, I'm like, oh my god, I'm a number of paces ahead of her. And I turn and I'm like, oh my god, what's going on? And my dad is behind her, walking up behind her, and without skipping a beat, he just throws open his leather trench coat, puts it around her, and just keeps walking. He's like, nope, you can't stop, you gotta keep going.
Keep moving, yeah,
Yep.
Keep the heat moving.
Yep.
That is fast. I mean, yeah, like people who haven't experienced that, to us, it is what it is. It's cold, it's not that bad, but yeah, man, for someone like that who's never experienced that kind of cold, that's a system shock.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean,
least.
I'm not trying to puff my chest. I mean, there are times in Buffalo where it's just way too fucking cold. Like,
Yeah.
I can get cold, but yeah, if you're not used to it at all, I did feel bad for her. I was like, that's got to be a huge shock to your system. You know, if you've never really experienced anything under like 50 degrees before in your life.
Yeah. And even though we can get on the East Coast, we get stupid cold and also that crazy humidity hot. So we get that weird mixture. But yeah, I couldn't imagine being someone living in like friggin' Arizona or somewhere where, you know, Las Vegas, where it gets 120 degrees, even if it's dry heat or whatever. Like, I'm terrible with heat. So that's one of those things where it's probably the opposite. I just find it funny that when our buddies move places, and I was curious, and it seems like you're right there that, you know, now you're at the point, if you feel 50, you're like, okay, you know, in San Diego, this is a bit chilly. I'll throw on a hoodie or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, after time, your body starts to acclimate to what you're around, so I'm a bit more sympathetic, but heat is not something I can get used to. I'm really bad with heat. I did 2 Game On Expos in Phoenix last year and before, and the first year it was, on average, I think it was 115 degrees over the whole weekend.
What the fuck?
And I just exploded into hives every time I walked outside. Like, I just became a red bump mess. And then the year after, everyone was like, hey, welcome back. Congrats. You know, the weather's not as bad as last year. It's a bit cooler. And that was
110.
That was like, yeah, exactly. It was like average of 107 the entire weekend. And I'm like, this is not living conditions. Like, my joke has always been, in the heat, you can only take so much off. In the cold, you can keep putting on layers for a good amount of time.
Exactly.
You can build a fire. You can do some shit. There's even if you're in AC and whatever, if you're outdoors, like you said, yeah, you can be butt ass naked. You ain't getting any cooler.
Right.
There's
exactly.
nothing you can really do. Yeah. All right. So, one question I did want to ask you, and I know Jim, he has some of our Patreon questions and some things we wouldn't get into, but I have this annoying habit, and I know it's annoying, but it's something I do all the time,
Oh, here it comes.
where I ask hypothetical questions just to test where you're at as far as like some of your favorite hobbies, if you will.
Okay.
And you tell me where I'm wrong or if I'm wrong. So, you know, watching you guys on the CUPodcast and everything, it seems like some of your favorite things, aside from, you know, video gaming, are, you know, collecting records,
Yep.
playing Mahjong, and your favorite system is arguably the PC Engine?
Yeah, PC Engine is their system. Yeah, that's without a doubt.
So I always ask, just, okay, if you had the option, you could collect an entire collection of PC Engine, every game, closed in box, yada, 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 but you had to give up every single one of your records, and you could no longer play Mahjong. Would you do that?
No, I wouldn't. Namely because a complete PC Engine collection doesn't interest me. I just kind of want what I want to play. So yeah, there's really, even if you offered it that way to me, like, oh, every game you want to play, no, I wouldn't give it up. PC Engine is where I play most of the stuff, so
Okay.
that's I have a collection of Mahjong games, and I probably have about 70 of them, and I think about 33 of them are on the PC Engine. I think I'm only missing like 4 Mahjong games on the PC Engine, and one of them goes for about $3,000 to find it. So I'm not in a hurry to pick that one up.
All right, so this is where the annoying part comes in, because I'm going to keep pushing until I figure out where your breaking point is with this.
Okay.
So what if you had to give up like just video gaming in general, including pinball, or collecting records, using your synthesizers, because we know you're a DJ, like which one would be more important to you? Like you could never game again or never collect records. Like, you could listen to music but no longer collect for it, no longer produce or create your own music. Which one is higher for you?
That's tough. Listening to music is more important to me than collecting it. The reason I collect records is kind of weird and ass backwards, because for a long time that's the only listen to it. Turntable. But if I'm in a perfect world where I've got other ways to listen to it regularly in the house, I'd probably stop collecting records before I stopped playing video games. If it was a matter of stop collecting video games or stop collecting records, I would probably stop collecting.
Gotcha. Okay, no, that makes sense. That's more reasonable. I didn't know which one you were leaning more towards as far as like what's your favorite, this or that.
It changes. When it comes right down to it, though, I don't consider pinball video games. I would absolutely choose pinball over video games if I had that choice.
So if you could get like, say someone's like some crazy asshole in my hypothetical world is like, hey, here's 50 or to 100 of perfect pinball machines of whatever you want.
Of your favorites.
Or an entire video game collection of every game you really want on home consoles, but you can only do one or the other. You'd think you'd probably go pinball?
It's not think. I mean, I would be putting that shit in boxes as soon as I was off.
So did the pinball obsession, did that start at a younger age, or is that something that just grew like exponentially with appreciation over the years?
It started when I was younger. I always thought the machines were really cool to look at. The first machine I remember playing was there's an electromechanical machine called Fireball, and then Bally.
I know about that one.
Okay, and then Bally re-released it in '84 as a solid state, just called Fireball Classic. It's more or less the same. There's some differences.
Because it was a Williams at first, right?
No, it's Bally.
Okay.
I should make sure about that, actually. I'll be pissed.
We're wrong all the time, if that makes you feel any better.
Yeah, there's a 99% chance that I'm wrong on this.
Okay, no, it's Bally. So Bally did the electromechanical, and then they re-released solid state. And I remember it clearly because I remember the spinning disc in the center, and I remember the weird devil guy on the back throwing Fireball. And I remember my mom putting me up on a stool. That was probably like, Christ, that was probably 4 or 5. And, basically just showing me what it was. And I remember hitting the flippers. And ever since then, like, when I'd see a pinball machine, like, we would go out to eat. The kid, I'd always hang out and look at it. I was fine just looking at them because I thought, like, the little world inside of pinball was cool. I like video games, but I never got, like, crazy into, playing games at an arcade when I was a teenager. And I'm 37, so in the 90s when I was growing up, that was, like, the last big hurrah of pinball with the dot matrix displays. Mm-hmm. So I would always tend to gravitate towards pinball as opposed to, like, Mortal Kombat or something like that. I was just never good at that stuff. The putt-putt mini golf near where I grew up, had a Jurassic Park pinball machine when it came out, and that was the first pinball machine that I played and really learned and understood the rules. And figured out that pinball wasn't luck and that there was a lot more to it than just keeping the ball in play. I think that's one of the only machines I've ever, quote unquote, beaten, gotten to the wizard mode on. And then my local bowling alley had a bunch of machines. They had a Medieval Madness when it came out. A lot of people consider that one of the best. So I was lucky enough to be able to play it then because it's a hard machine to find now. Yeah, and then I moved out here, and I grew up, stopped seeing pinball machines around. Moved out here, and then I found out that pinball was getting like a little resurgence in the area, so I joined a league. I'd play League. Don't play League anymore, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places around here with a bunch of machines. A bar 5 minutes from here has like 8 of them, so I'll often go there about once a week. And I do own one.
That's awesome.
I have a Paragon, the 1979 machine. It's also a Bally. Big fan of Bally. And
nice.
Right now it needs some repair on the score displays, but everything else works fine. So yeah, it's just I have more fun with it after talking about video games, at work all day and working, doing podcasts. It's nice to go and, I don't know, play a game, but one that I can actually put my hands on. I can physically manipulate it. I can see what's going on. I don't have to worry about if the physics are good because the physics are real world physics. It's nice to play something.
Yeah, it's not like trying to decipher between, like, say, Pinbot on the NES or Sonic Spinball, shit like that.
Right, exactly. And I do like a lot of pinball video games, too, but, just an actual machine that you can nudge, push, and all that, it's really, really difficult.
Oh, yeah.
So hon, let me ask you real quick, then. I'm glad you said that, because I bust Jim's balls about pinball video games, but I've always found it fascinating people would find the actual pinball machines that's just luck, because clearly that's not the case. It's like maybe 10% luck on those machines or whatever the case is. But what do you find more impressive? Someone who can be really good at pinball machines or someone who at the actual arcades can consistently get like crazy, beat the game, high scores, make it glitch, like Donkey Kong, all that shit. Like, and I know obviously you have a penchant for pinball games, but if you try to be objective, which one of those would impress you more? Someone who's consistently good at those pinballs or those arcade machines?
That's a tough call because people who are really good at arcade games, it's impressive. I'm impressed by both. I would honestly, it depends on the type of video game. In, say, a classic game like Pac-Man, you can learn all the proper patterns to get through it. In a game like pinball, on a certain table, you can learn all the rules and learn how to maximize your score very efficiently. So both of that is really, it's having the skill to figure it out, but then it kind of becomes, I would say, almost a repetition of motion. You're just kind of, you need the skill to figure out what works, but once you get it, it just kind of becomes automatic. I think, to me, if we're talking games and pinball, the people who actually impress me the most are the really, really top-level fighting game players. That stuff impresses me. I'm not, huge into the fighting game community. It always seemed a bit, hard to break into, but I love watching it, and the amount of things that are going on in a person's head when they're playing a fighting game at a high level is just, it's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
You have to make these inputs with, one frame, that you can do it in, and it's wild. So it's not that I want to do that. I do play fighting games. I'm just not good at them. But I think
Same.
I have the most respect, just on like a skill level, a technical level, for people who play fighting games. Really.
Well, yeah, it's that combination of like muscle memory with like fast twitch reflexes that I just can't comprehend.
Yeah, and if you're playing against a human, like you can't,
There's no
you
pattern.
can recognize patterns.
Right,
Exactly.
precisely.
It's like, yeah, they probably will jump, but they may or may not. It's so much more random. So yeah, that's actually a really good point because, yeah, the other two, as you said, a lot of it, the old arcade games. Not saying they're not hard because I could never even do a freaking quarter of what some of these experts
Right,
do.
they're crazy
But-
difficult. Like, it's still a lot of skill, but yeah, I don't think it's nearly the same as when you're playing something one-on-one. You know, like that.
That's actually a great point. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I didn't even give that a thought. And whew, yeah, no, you're definitely right. I think fighting games, that probably tops it. Fighting games at the arcade, because nowadays everyone obviously thinks in terms of you're playing online with people, FPSs or whatever. But even those, like, you could also have coefficients like friggin' lag and stuff you don't anticipate or can't anticipate that can affect the gameplay versus an arcade where it's actual input versus input.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
All right, actually, that leads into one of our recurring bits, which we call "Which is Better." So,
Oh, God.
Ian,
Yes.
for the first one, let's go with. I'm probably wrong on this, but I think Bally and Williams kind of combined at one point. So I'm going to say, which is better, Bally Williams, Stern, or Gottlieb?
Okay, so I'll say this to a pinball person: Bally and Williams should definitely be separated, and the answer is Bally, always and forever. Bally is my favorite pinball company. Almost all of my favorite machines were Bally. Bally did get bought by Williams, I think they definitely did, but I think it was late 80s.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, and some thing was his machines would still get released under the Bally name, but it was
That's where I got confused with Fireball.
but Bally Williams is the overall became the overarching company name. But when I look at solid state pinball machines, that's generally considered to be 79 through 89, 90. Bally for me was always the best. Centaur is probably my favorite machine. They did that. Fathom is one of my favorites. They did that. 8-Ball Deluxe. All the Bally wide bodies like Paragon, Embryon, Hot Doggin, Future Spa, etc. Space Invaders was one as well. Yeah, that's all Bally, and that's all my favorite stuff to play.
Nice. Were they the ones who also did like Taxi and Whirlwind and all that too? Or is that just like a rebranding?
Williams did Taxi, and Whirlwind is
Okay.
great, though. I freaking love Whirlwind. That's a fantastic.
Yeah, because Whirlwind's one of my favorite, but some of the ones you mentioned, all right, that's Bally actually. Okay.
Whirlwind I love, and Whirlwind is Whirlwind was designed by the same person who did Funhouse, which is another one.
Funhouse is great.
Yeah, Funhouse is weird, but it's a good game.
It's a little horrifying, but yeah, it's awesome. All right, cool, man. And actually, keep it on to which is better bits, so we can boil this into another thing.
Okay.
So, which is better, the PC Engine or the Game Boy?
Ah, fuck you.
Yes.
Are you
yes.
wait, just so we define it correctly, are you saying the original brick Game Boy or Game Boy and Game Boy like Advance or Color?
Ooh,
What are
that's
you
a good
saying
question.
here?
Well, you know what? I know since Ian is one of the founders, along with a few others, of Yokoi Kids,
That's right.
which we participate in. Let's go with the classic Game Boy.
Just okay. So original.
Do Game Boy Color. We'll do that.
Okay.
That's a good one, assholes.
How's it going,
No,
too?
we
the
had
audio
our
people
voice,
can have
but
some
we
special
didn't
editions.
have the video. So because I remember we stopped right at Jim asking you the asshole question of Game
he's
Boy
gotta go
versus
back into
PC.
that.
Which I have an answer for. I thought this was all part of it, so feel free to use anything that I send.
Okay.
That'll be in the audio part, so
Okay,
they
yeah.
get some special content.
But all right, so for video purposes, we're back in 3, 2, 1. All right, Ian. So Jim asked his asshole question, which usually comes from me as far as toughest questions. But yeah, so which is better? Because I have an interesting thought on this, and I want to see what Jim's is. But yours is the most important here. Which is better, the PC Engine or the Game Boy?
All right. So I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna necessarily go into which is. Well, I guess this doesn't matter. If I had to give one up, it would be the Game Boy. And here's why.
Wow.
Here's why. I love the Game Boy. The Game Boy has a great library. What I like about the Game Boy library is that it's so full of pick up and play titles. Stuff that I can look at and be like, I need to kill, 15 minutes. I mean, I'm looking right here. I've got Solar Striker, Hamtaro, Black Bass, Baseball just sitting on my coffee.
Nice.
But there are other ways that I can play games like that to kill time. Maybe not as much as I would enjoy, but there's other systems. There's other ways. There's a lot of good games on the Game Boy. Some that I would miss being able to play. But say Pokemon, there's sequels. I can play a later one, say a 3DS, since that's not part of the question. The games that I love about the PC Engine, namely all the scrolling shooters, I can't really recreate that experience anywhere else. The shooters that were released for that system, one, they just haven't been ported, but two, that's a very specific type of game that is linked to that time and that place. They don't make shooters like that. They still make shooters. They don't make shooters like that. Good pick up and play games like the Game Boy has, people are always trying to do that one. Trying to do it on the phone or as a quick download game on, say, a Vita or a 3DS or another Switch. I wouldn't be able to play all my favorite games, but I could find approximations. I can't do that if I can. I'm not going to find shooters like that.
So I'm going to try to say, you're saying technically, like you said at the beginning, one up to Game Boy, but at the end of the day, PC Engine without doubt has much more unique titles that can never be emulated.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, they can be emulated, but if I have to give one up, I'm going to give up the Game Boy because I can play a lot of games similar to that on other systems. The PC Engine, they don't make shooters like that anymore. They still make platformers like they do on the Game Boy. They're indie platformers. They still make simple baseball games. But that specific era of shooter, they don't really do any. It's all like bullet hell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which I can see because, like, I've said it before, like, just that feel of, like, the Genesis or the TurboGrafx. Like,
well, we're not talking about Genesis, Jim. So
I'm just making a point, you son of a bitch.
We're talking about PC Engine and Game Boy. Why don't you get off the goddamn Genesis stick and stay on topic?
I would if I could, but it's such a nice dick. I just can't help it, Brian.
I love the Genesis. It's a great dick. I've got
Thank you.
I've got the analog Genesis stick right here. Sitting, actually, it's right on top of my PC Engine.
Wait, Ian,
God,
is the
two
PC
beautiful
Engine
dicks
better?
right next to each other.
Is the PC Engine better than Genesis?
Yes.
You motherfucker.
Okay, thank
you. Joe.
Is the PC Engine better than TurboGrafx?
Yes.
Well,
because it's cheaper and there's more titles available for it. I mean, that's the only main reason. But yes.
I just wanted to burn the shit out of Jim since he has TurboGrafx.
Dude, actually, it turned. PC Engines on eBay are more expensive than turbos now.
Really?
I think people finally realized you can get more games for it.
Well,
even if you can't, like, read a lot of them.
I told people for years that buying a PC Engine was the way to go over buying, a Turbo Duo. So maybe I've shot myself.
Maybe, but yeah, I was surprised because I was looking to get a PC Engine. I was like, holy shit. I just wound up getting an adapter for my Turbo, but...
That's right. I'll get it, Jim, because it's a better system.
Good for you. I got a good Craigslist deal back in the day.
The adapter's a fine idea. I mean, as long as you have... I
have a Casado.
If you have this... Oh, okay, right. If you've got a CD unit, it doesn't matter. CD units will play either
They
region.
play whatever, yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter. As long as you have access to the full library, then you're doing it right. I don't care what you actually...
Yeah, the only Turbo CD game I have is Fighting Street. So when I eventually get a Duo, I know, trust me. But whenever I eventually get a Turbo Duo or maybe a PC Engine CD, then I can finally get a lot of those other beautiful shmups they have.
Yeah, the CD system, it's really something that I find a lot of people who want to get in. PC Engine or Turbo, they discount it, and I'm like, if you discount the CD system, it's not like the Sega CD. Or the Jaguar CD, where it's only gatekeeping a handful of titles that you may not care about from you. A good half of the system is on CD, so you really can't ignore the CD aspect of PC.
Oh yeah, especially with the CD engine. I think mostly everything after like 91 or 92 was primarily on the CD. Like they even phased out Hue cards pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm looking at my PC Engine collection. One of the only collections I keep in the living room. And rough estimate, I would say 2/3 of my games are CD and 1/3 card.
Sounds about right.
So, Jim, instead of getting on the Sega Genesis dick,
Here we go.
why don't you answer a goddamn question since you asked it? What's better, the Game Boy or the PC Engine?
See, this is tough for me because
you fence it and you won't pick one.
I do not fence it. I'm going to pick one, and thankfully Ian went first. So for the same reason as him, I'm going to say the Turbo because...
we didn't say the fucking Turbo, did we, Jim?
It's in the same goddamn category.
Did we say the Turbo or did we say PC Engine?
I only have a Turbo. I can only go with what I have.
No, that's not the goddamn question.
Well, but then even better than PC Engine because it's got a better library.
They're the damn same.
God. So the PC Engine, because much like Ian said, it's such a unique experience with the games, where a lot of the Game Boy, some of the best titles, like you said, are kind of dumbed down versions of stuff you can find on the NES or Super NES. Whereas with the Turbo, it's got such just a unique feel to it that you're just not going to get anywhere else. You can replace a Game Boy besides the portability. But the Turbo, it's pretty much hard to at this point.
There are multiple portable systems that can scratch the itch of the Game Boy. The black and white Game Boy and its library may be my favorite of those. And in a world where I don't have to make this horrible, horrible decision, I love them both. And honestly, I've been playing the Game Boy a lot more lately because a very nice person who actually didn't want me to name them or anything gave me a backlit modded original model Game Boy Advance. So I've been...
I saw that on Twitter. That was badass.
It's beautiful,
man.
too.
It's awesome. But I've been playing shitloads of Game Boy lately, and I love it, and I would never give it up under any real circumstances. But yes, there is a specific style of game that was made on the PC Engine that they don't make. I can still find portable systems and portable games that would scratch that itch for me if I had to give up the Game Boy. I could find something.
Look, you can't find Strip Fighter 2 on the Game Boy, all right?
No, you can't.
All right, so then to go against Jim, I don't want to go against Ian because I think he's actually right. Jim is usually wrong, and Jim only is riding the coattails of Ian at this point. So to be devil's advocate here, I will go Game Boy strictly. One, I don't have, other than playing Jim's Turbo graphics and emulating the PC Engine, I don't have personal, actual real-world experience with it. The thing about the Game Boy that blew my mind was I had played, my buddies had every single, the links, whatever you want to name it. The portable,
He was your Kevin?
Yeah, every single portable device but the Game Boy, legitimately, I remember falling in love with the game. Super Mario Land, or am I saying that right?
Yeah, Land.
Land.
Friggin' the Spider-Man game, as terrible as it might have aged, for some reason I loved it. The Super Metroid, like all the games that came out on the Game Boy, I remember thinking holy shit, this was a legit portable thing that continued the stories of all these really famous franchises. Even Link's
Awakening is the best Zelda.
Yeah, and that's the thing is people discount it because it's a Game Boy game, but they don't appreciate the depth of those games because they kind of like, yeah, that's that kind of handheld game. And I think that helped legitimize a lot of series in Nintendo's. I mean, they had the Super NES, but that helped really cement a lot of these series that today are still living on. And honestly, we wouldn't have the Switch if we didn't have something like a Game Boy that could legitimately be a handheld, mobile, you're playing whatever. I'm not going to say the PC Engine isn't unique. It is. But like me and you have argued about the Sega Genesis, had more attitude, had more unique things. But in the realm of history, people are going to be like, the Game Boy way over the PC Engine.
Oh, sure.
And since I have to play devil's advocate and go against Jim because he's always wrong, I'm gonna say the Game Boy just because it's my personal experience. And honestly, the soundtracks, and I don't know the PC Engine.
Yeah, you can't be the Game Boy sound chip.
And I'm one of those people. I don't know, Ian, if you agree or not. Like, a game can have perfect gameplay and control and all these other things. But what always lingers in my mind is a really memorable soundtrack. Like, if a game doesn't have that, it can't ever be considered a perfect or near perfect game for me if I can't, like, hum the tune that reminds me of that game all the time. And Game Boy has a shit ton of those.
It definitely does. And it's funny that you said Mario Land because... So, what the Game Boy did, and people slowly realized it over time, but the best games on the Game Boy, you weren't playing a portable version of Zelda. You were playing a Zelda game. Super Mario Land and Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins, you're not playing a portable Mario. You're playing another worthwhile entry in those series. So when I was answering the PC Engine Game Boy question, when you brought it up, the one thing that I meant to say in my head was, it would be tough to give up the original Super Mario Land because I love that game. It's, the controls a little faster than you would think, but it's 4 worlds, great music, and it's the perfect game to take with you on the go. A lot of people go with 6 Golden Coins or Wario Land, but Super Mario Land, the original, is one of the most perfect.
No, and so, like I said, I, of course, against Jim, will always do devil's advocate.
Stop
especially
farting.
if he answers first.
Stop farting?
Yes. You couldn't hear that over on your end.
It was one toot.
One toot.
One toot my ass. There is 2 sizable toots over here.
Listen, we're 4 beers deep, and these are all fruit, so,
Yeah, and things happen.
No, but
fruit toots.
Ian, that's
exactly.
my point, is like, me and Jim, we fuck around, but we talk about Genesis for Super NES and whatever, and I always I equate the PC Engine to a Genesis type where you do have just titles that are unique to their time, to how they were created, that you can't ever, I mean, I guess you could recreate, but nobody has. And then there's a certain foundation and series that's continued with these Nintendo consoles that's kind of undeniable. So that's where I put the Game Boy as far as which is better.
That's fair. I think to look at it, so sort of my way is the Game Boy started a trend that was continued naturally through all of their other portables. So I can pick up a Game Boy Advance, I can pick up a DS or a 3DS, I can pick up a Switch, and I can find those titles and those things that And I love the Genesis. Well, there's a reason why I own a Genesis and a PC Engine, but I don't own a Super.
Love them.
But those systems were more experimental, and a lot of that stuff kind of got dropped after a certain. So you don't, even the Dreamcast, which I loved, but I loved it for different reasons than I loved the Genesis. It's not like there was a natural. Is this making any sense? There's a progression. No. There's a progression that Nintendo started that made sense. It's like an even landscape. I can pick up anywhere on that Nintendo timeline and get the same sort of joy, maybe not in the same concentration as I could on the Game Boy, but I can find it on the Switch. The PC Engine, there is nothing else I can pick up now that gives me the same.
No, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, it's kind of undeniable, and as someone who hasn't played both, I think it's hard to describe, and I know what you're trying to do, so I appreciate that. But I do have one question for you, because I really want to break Jim's heart.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right.
You are one of the few who is willing to, I think, argue, maybe, and I could be wrong, you love Final Fight, right?
Oh, I love Final Fight.
All right.
You son of a
Would
bitch.
you
Don't you fucking dare.
Yes,
I know what's coming.
It's better than Streets of Rage, if that's
You
what you're about to add.
Hang up the goddamn call. Hang it up right now.
Okay, so here's the deal.
Every time I book a goddamn guest, this shit happens. Stab me in the heart.
Can I ask you one question?
Yes.
I've argued with Jim. All right, I grew up, me and my brother, my brother was Sega Genesis strictly because of sports games. I was Super NES. But since then, I'm not saying I'm one or the other. But to bust Jim's balls, I always say Super NES is better. Whether I believe it or not, I'll say that. And what I said is, because of the button layout, the original controller, and the way most games played, that beat-em-ups were sometimes better on the Super NES. Streets of Rage is the unique anomaly where that game was really well done, but I just said, I don't know. For me, beat-em-ups felt better on the Super NES, using Final Fight as an example. Of course,
Oh, no. See, now I'm going to have to break your heart. Final Fight is better than Streets of Rage if we're talking a true version of Final Fight. Final Fight on the Super Nintendo can fuck right off. It's a horrible game. Oh my god, is it awful. The arcade version is probably my favorite beat-em-up and one of my favorite beat-em-ups of all time, but I cannot stand the Super Nintendo version.
Okay.
Streets of Rage beats Final Fight if we're just talking Super Nintendo versus Genesis, hands down, simply based on the fact that you can get 2-player.
True. So let me ask you, arcade Final Fight versus Streets of Rage, which soundtrack is more memorable to you?
Streets of Rage.
Okay. So you recognize, that's why I said, I mean, to me, if I'm going off the top of my head, if I think the most classic Sega Genesis soundtrack, it kind of has to be Streets of Rage 2, right?
Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3
amazing.
All have great soundtracks.
Thank you, Ian, for acknowledging 3.
All right,
some people over here refuse
Ian,
to.
Even if you acknowledge 3, can you admit that 2 is better than 3?
Yes, 2.
Kind of undoubtedly.
Fucking course.
2 is better than 3, and I actually like Streets of Rage 1 better than 2 or 3.
Dude, 1,
musically
I
or
said,
for the game?
No.
For the game, Part 2, it's for a weird reason. Part 2 has the that seaside level, whatever, or the carnival level where you're about to go into the funhouse, and the scrolling is freaking backwards, and it in the background.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
it makes me sick. I like it. Just
the ship. The ship kills you, doesn't it?
It just fucks me up when I look at it. My brain can't deal with it. So.
Yeah, Streets of Rage 1, dude. That soundtrack, though, we said
it's amazing.
Alley, the streets. What the hell was the name of it?
We did a top 10 of Streets of Rage stage music, and it was basically all 1 and 2. But 1, we were like, holy shit! I'm surprised by how many are on. Yeah,
like Moon Beach, and there was a few others. But Streets of Rage 3, the biggest problem I had with that was, and I don't know if you agree, Ian, is that they might have been complex, but it sounded a little too jumbled when it came out on the Sega Genesis. The way the actual sound card was, or whatever it was. Whereas 2 and 1 were clear as day. Really clean and just obviously super memorable. 3 was just they tried to almost do too much at once. I love
3's soundtrack, especially if you hear it in the way it's intended. I think it's still good, but it is. I do feel like that it was a bit much for the Genesis to handle. But it's still a great soundtrack. It's fantastic. But
you would still say Final Fight is better than Streets of Rage to piss Jim off.
Arcade version, yeah. And here's the thing, this is kind of giving a little to Streets of Rage. I do think it's fair to compare Streets of Rage to the arcade version of Final Fight
That was a ripoff.
Because Streets of Rage, well, that, but also because Streets of Rage felt like an arcade game. It was comparable. It didn't feel dumbed down or stripped like the Super Nintendo version of Final Fight. So I think Streets of Rage gives Final Fight a run for its money, but I do not think it's better. No, not anyway.
It's fair. I can give it that.
Do you feel since you're like Jim, where you love the Genesis, would it be fair to say you think Streets of Rage is best beat 'em up and probably top 5 Genesis game?
Yes.
Streets of Rage 2, maybe.
Yeah, I would say that. On any given day, I can jump back and forth between one or two. So, yes, I do think it's fair to say that, those are probably one of the best games on the system, and certainly the best beat 'em up.
Listen, at the beginning, I just needed to hear you say Final Fight is better than Streets of Rage to break Jim's heart.
Brian's boner hasn't gone away yet.
Oops, sorry. Let me fold that.
Ew, gross.
All right, Jim, so go ahead.
All right, so while we're on the topic of the Game Boy, obviously it's the perfect segue into talking about Yokoi Kids, which, Ian, I don't know if you want to be the one to plug this here or to go into what it's about, because how we found out about it is I saw you asking for submittals for Fall of the Foot Clan.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, fuck it. I'll pick this up and give it a go. And this was while Brian was on his break when he had his second kid, so I made a review for it and shit like that. And except for maybe last month, we've been doing it every month since.
So, yeah, I'll just plug it real quick. It was an idea that my friend Rick and I had. It's simply a website where people who like Game Boy games, specifically black and white Game Boy games, can get together, focus on one game a month, and you can submit just absolutely anything. So you can submit a review, you can submit a video, you can submit a poem, you can submit a comic, a drawing, you can submit a picture of a themed cake that you baked with that game. It doesn't matter. People have done music. Anything. It's sort of a DIY space on the internet, creative outlet that starts with a Game Boy game per month, but really what you want to do with it from there is up to you. The only requirements to be a part of it are don't be an asshole, don't be a mean person, and you can submit. Basically, you can submit for each game that comes out. So if, for instance, we're doing Tetris now for August. August ends, 2 days? Tomorrow?
Yeah, we're recording this on the 30th, so probably tomorrow.
So you can submit for Tetris until the end of September. So whatever the game of the month is, feel free to submit anything you want into the end of the month that follows. And have fun with it. There's no money. We'll never try to monetize it. And yeah, anyone can join. So anyone who's ever wanted to contribute to a website or talk about games, someone who's afraid to do it for a major website, just send us what you have. Follow us on Twitter, Yokoi Kids. And yeah.
Ian, I have one question about the game of the month, Tetris.
Yes.
And I meant to ask this when we were saying Game Boy versus PC Engine.
Okay.
Could it be fair to say that the Tetris theme is the most memorable video game theme of all time?
It could be fair, but I would have to say that the first level music to Mario Brothers, that's the most.
It's always
iconic.
back and forth between those two. I kind of even any girlfriend I've ever had, I feel like they always knew both of those. Mario probably gets a little bit of the push, but the Tetris theme, and I don't know if you knew this, but I didn't realize that that's an old Russian piano song.
Yes,
that
it is.
Don't have the
I learned that eventually, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that for many, many, many years. I think I learned that last year. I was like, wait, what? It is? I definitely thought it was created for Tetris. So, yeah, but that theme is that and Mario, to me, is side by side as far as the most memorable.
Yeah, it's tough to pick one. The only thing I would say is that Super Mario Brothers, all versions of Super Mario Brothers, have that same first level music. Everyone knows the Tetris theme, but that's only, you can say that, but that's only in certain versions. Lots of people played Tetris on computers or bootleg versions of Tetris, et cetera, et cetera. So while everyone and their mother played Tetris at one point in time, not everyone was exposed to that track. I think Mario has to get it by a hair.
Okay. But it's right up there. It's like number 2.
Oh, it's definitely up there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 1 and 1A, basically.
That was something I thought of when we were talking about the, Game Boy versus PC Engine. But, yeah, I mean, without a doubt, if you're not following Yokoi Kids, just go there. It's, like Ian said, it's one of the most pure, for nostalgia, for just getting together and talking about the love of a game. And I do love people submit not just videos, but memories, like all types of different
comics,
media.
self-made comics.
I really love that aspect of it. That it's not just an inundation of here's my video on it. It's drawings. It's whatever. Like it's just thoughts on a game that impacted you. And
when we did when we did Super Mario Land, one of the contributors actually programmed and contributed a Flash game based on some of the characters in Super Mario Land. So people have even made new games based on the games that we cover.
Could some say Janet Jackson's a Yokoi kid because she sampled the song for one of her hits?
I don't think anyone would say that, Jim. God damn it!
I think I'm saying it right now, so it's going to go on from here.
I think she's a Genesis fan, so.
Well, then I love her even more.
Son of a bitch.
And actually, not to plug our stuff too harshly, but of course we will.
Oh, God.
As of today, we actually uploaded our submission for Tetris, which is a drinking game.
Oh.
And actually, Ian, I would love to see you take a shot at this on one of your Twitch streams because we're admittally terrible at Tetris. As I've learned.
Wait. Let me back this up.
I thought I was good.
Let me back this up for a goddamn second. So Jim comes to me. Usually I come up with the drinking game. That's fair statement.
Fair.
So Jim comes to me. He's like, I got an idea for a drinking game. The Yokoi kids are doing Tetris, so let's do a Tetris. Let's do Type B at level 9 with 5 lines. And whoever...
Quickest way to hit the rocket ship.
Yeah, with the goal of hitting the rocket ship.
Sure.
So right away, I know nothing. Literally, I had the original Game Boy, and Tetris was my first game. I didn't do any of that shit, so I'm just like, okay. While Jim and I are playing other games, I'm like, Jim, what are you doing? He's actively playing that game. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just trying this out to see. It's going to be tough. So we start... And granted, per our video, neither of us did very well. Neither of us got past 1 or 2 lines, maybe 3. But the rules are really tough, and if you don't get past a certain amount of lines, you're going to drink a whole lot trying that.
Which we did.
We fucking suck at Tetris, but Jim is actually much better than I am. So it was completely biased as far as the drinking game. But yeah, I would love to see, if you know Ian for setting up the Yokoi kids and anyone you know, if they are like Tetris experts, I would love to see them try, assuming they're of age, of course, to do a drinking game with this. Because it's...
So my wife is huge. My wife is huge into Tetris, and she's very good at it. But I also have 2 friends, my friend Lincoln and my friend Audrey, who are fantastic at Tetris. So I will definitely pull up these rules and check them out because I feel like that could be fun.
Ah, nice.
On that note, give me 1 second.
I just want you to break Jim's heart. I know we're about to go on to other questions.
Before we go into this, I just want to say real quick for the people watching the video feed, if you're enjoying the video feed of this, which how can you not, obviously, make sure you download the audio version on iTunes because there's a lot of stuff that we didn't get on camera.
Oh yeah, we talked a lot. Yeah, we did a lot of talking off camera, so I would say listen to that.
All right, so we're back on camera, and one of my questions, Ian, I know you're like us. You're not really judging people for drinking whatever they like because it has good flavor. But Jim is taken to a certain taste of, I'll say, hey, Jim, we need to try, this really good beer, doesn't matter, whatever. And he comes back with me like, I've been really enjoying these hard seltzers. And they're so refreshing and da-da-da-da-da. And I feel, wait, shut the fuck up. And I feel like at this point, it's like they're like the new hard iced tea or Mike's Hard Lemonade. And they're the things that are like popular right now with like, what is it called? White Claw, Bear Claw?
White Claw. Fucking, that's the big one.
What is your take on that shit?
I like them because I drink a lot of seltzer in general. If I'm not drinking beer, or whiskey, I'm probably drinking seltzer. On a day-to-day basis, I drink a lot of water, but I find I drink more. I drink seltzer. It doesn't have to be flavored. Just if it's bubbly, I'm gonna drink it. So I actually really like the White Claws, and Truly is not bad. I don't drink many of them though because they make me poop.
They don't just make you fart. They make you poop.
That's a given for me because I poop way too much as is. So
Jim has
that
a
doesn't matter
long
for me.
history of drinking a glass of water and almost shitting his pants. But
Things happen.
I think I drink them. I like them. My wife likes them from time to time. They are popular at the the house parties we've been doing every month because it's hot outside. You can't taste much booze. People slam them down. I enjoy them. I think it's better than the hard iced tea craze because I like candy and stuff like that, but I'm not like huge these days on a lot of sweet like drinks. Mm-hmm. So I enjoy the fact that it's just trying to be like an alcoholic Roy or Polar. Something about that like refined sugar alcohol, it runs right through me, man. Boy howdy is that a problem.
Yeah, I had a good phase of that for a couple months. And then I drank one that was at the bottom of my fridge for like 3 months.
Ooh.
I was like, I'll kill this off. Dude, as I was drinking it, all of a sudden the back of my throat felt like it was getting cut to pieces. I was like, what the It's almost like the can was disintegrating after a certain amount of time. And I haven't gone back to it since. And I was like, I'm being healthy. This is like no calorie bullshit with the alcohol.
And admittedly, I've never tried one.
They're tasty.
But if you
refreshing.
For
refreshing,
our fans, and just for Ian's sake, I'm dealing with a person here who I'll give him really quality beer, and I'll say, Jim, we need to do a review on like this stout, and he sends me a write up for like a Leinenkugel Summer Shandy, and I'm like, that's not even the fucking beer we were talking about. And then he'll send me like, this White Claw is really refreshing. I'm like, God damn it, Jim, buy beer so we can drink it for the goddamn site. So I had to ask you your opinion on that because I drink seltzer, like you said, LaCroix and whatever, La Perrier or. Like, I'll do that because I'm basically water, coffee, or alcohol. Like, I don't do anything. I don't do soda. I don't do anything else. But this fucking craze with the White Claws and everything, and that Jim jumped on top of it right at the height of everyone else being...
I did before. I'm a White Claw hipster, goddammit.
You were basically right there with every other stupid...
Shit.
You're like, oh, White Claw. And I'm like, Jim, at least go back to your Keystones. Go back to your root.
Oh, but Keystone never went away.
Trying to class it up with White Claws, you son of a bitch. And I'm sitting here with like goddamn, Ballast Point or Victories, and you're like, but White Claw. I'm like, son of a bitch. We're doing beers. What the fuck are you talking about?
So, at the house parties, our bartender, we have open bar at them. Our bartender, Roxanne, she's wonderful. And after my set last time, I went to go get a drink. And I had been drinking, it was sunny out, I'd been drinking vodka and soda. But it was like grapefruit seltzer. It was delicious.
Yeah.
So I went over and I asked her for a drink after that. She was like, hey, good job. She's like, you look thirsty. And I'm like, I am. And she pulled a grapefruit White Claw out and then mixed vodka into that. And that was fantastic.
And how'd you feel the next morning?
Felt like I had to poop.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, I was. Listen, you didn't break Jim's heart. I think you helped save.
It didn't break your heart either.
But it didn't break my heart either because I respect it. You weren't like Jim, who was pushing this shit for years because he decided to waste a case on this. But
how dare you? All right,
Jim,
moving away from the White Claw. I have a question. Once again, another which is better for Ian.
Another which is better?
Yes, we had a few. But this one comes from a mutual friend of ours. Friend of the podcast, friend of Ian's. Travis, known as the Hibiki TMD.
All right. What's up?
So, he has a which of better as his own, which
Hit
he helped
me
me out
Travis.
with. Mozzarella sticks, Mott's fruit snacks, or Jamaican beef patties? Which is better?
Fuck. The fruit snacks can go away. I like them, but they can go. The mozzarella sticks versus Jamaican beef patties. Oh, fuck.
Dude, that's really tough depending on where you get them.
Yeah, it is. Gonna have to go beef patties. Yep.
Now, do you have a specific spot, or do you go straight up supermarket, you buy them frozen and can still make them at home? Because I had a very big penchant for those as a kid. Because my buddy introduced them to me when I was young. And I can't tell you what brand they were, but god damn it if I don't still buy them to this day and heat them up.
I get them from, wherever is serving them, preferably inside a piece of cocoa bread. Mozzarella sticks are one of my favorite things, and once again, this is not an easy question. However, I can experience melted mozzarella in other places. I would miss mozzarella sticks very, very much so. But Jamaican beef patties are one of those things where, like, you can't... There's really no... There's no equivalent. There's nothing that's similar. So I'd probably have to pick patties on sticks. That's tough, though. And I found a mozzarella stick Twitter last night. Actually, I meant to tweet Travis about it. This reminds me that I need to. And it's just pictures of mozzarella sticks being, like, pulled apart and shit. And oh my god, I was like drooling. It's one of the worst Twitter accounts I've ever seen because it just makes me want to go out and eat nothing but fried cheese all the time.
All right, so Ian, I think you've mentioned this before, and instead of the motts,
mozzarella sticks?
No. The motts fruit snacks.
Okay.
And since you already chose Jamaican beef patties, would you go Jamaican beef patties or the Haribo Gold Bear, the gummy bears, the gold bag of gummy bears?
All right, so here's the thing again. Some of these questions have been very specific versus somewhat general. Yep. As much as I love Haribo, I would probably give up the Haribo specifically in favor of Jamaican beef patties in general. However, if it was gummy bears versus beef patties, gummy bears. I gotta hold on to something.
I was going to say, I thought I've heard before, and I mentioned it specifically because I'm pretty sure I wrote down that was one of your favorites from a previous, you've said it on a podcast. I've heard you say it somewhere. I thought that was your favorite candy, right?
Oh, yeah. Gummy bears are number one. Original flavor Skittles would be a close number two, but you can't even buy those anymore because they replaced lime with green apple, and that's a fucking crime.
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah, years ago, like a decade.
When the fuck did this happen?
Like 10, 15 years ago, they replaced lime with green apple, and I won't buy them.
Yeah, that's true. Now, wait.
I've been lied to all this time.
This just hit my mind as you're talking about that, though. With the Skittles, I never fucking know if they're actually real commercials. I see them on YouTube. I feel like they have the absolute funniest commercials between the kid with the things on his face or the dude on his wedding night.
No, those are real.
Yeah, those are real.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but then there's ones that are kind of dirty, like the dude with his wife on the wedding night. And I'm like, what the fuck? That can't be a real
Wasn't
commercial.
that like a Germany one?
I don't know,
it was.
but I just saw it and I was like, that's
true.
not real. Like, why?
Europe can get away with that. Europe is very lax on sex.
Is there any argument that they don't have the funniest commercials, as ridiculous as they are?
Oh, they're fantastic. When I've always loved Skittles, and in high school, when I was doing a lot of acid, I ate a lot of Skittles as well, and it was great to like just be sitting there in the middle of the night tripping my balls off with a bag of Skittles, and then see a Skittles commercial come on and be like, woohoo! Yeah, yep, target market right here.
Well, speaking of Skittles, one thing I had to ask you, since we talked about a lot of different alcohols we mixed, the only thing that for a very, very brief second turned me off from Skittles was my brother and one of his exes used to take Skittles, melt it in vodka, and make Skittles vodka. So basically, you pour a whole bunch of Skittles in a bottle, you pour a whole bunch of vodka. It removed all the candy shell and a lot of the sugar. You dump out the rest of the gumminess, so you have the flavor of Skittles, but in vodka. So it was very dangerous because it tastes so goddamn good, but you would literally end up throwing up the whole goddamn rainbow. So have you ever tried that or heard of that?
Yes, I've done it with many liquors, and it has never turned out particularly well. I didn't like the way it tasted with vodka. And then in Buffalo, there was a thing Skittle Brow, where they would take two of your favorite flavor and drop it in a beer like lager.
Ooh.
That tasted like shit. But this goes back to Zima. It was a big thing to do with Zima. And I didn't drink much in high school, but Zima was usually at any high school party was. And like a couple that I went to, felt like 7 people. I did have a Skittles and Zima once. And that was fine because it's basically just 7. And it was...
Yeah.
Zima's disgusting to begin with, so adding a couple Skittles to it isn't really going to make it any grosser.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I'll be honest, we talked a lot about different alcohols. I can do whiskey, I can do tequila, I can do beer, I can mix all that shit together. For some reason, if the night goes crazy, and it happened to us at too many games this year, if I get straight shots of vodka, I will guaranteedly throw up. Like, there's almost no chance if somebody hands me a straight shot of vodka and I decide at that point I'm drunk and I'm like, oh, it's a good idea, I'm puking. And yeah, when you added Skittles to the mix, I don't care if you flavor vodka, that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, I didn't make it to that part of the party.
Yeah,
because I was behind a bush and I lost the crowd.
Because you got lost on a 5-minute walk because you had to pee in a bush and you fucking got lost like it was Jurassic Park.
Hey, I've lost my shoes twice. Don't feel
but
bad.
Did you ever lose an entire group of people on a straight path from one place to another?
Oh, hell yeah.
Thank you.
Damn it, Ian, you should say no.
God, what a doll baby.
I had a real misspent youth, so basically the answer to most questions is yes, that happened once or twice.
But would you have ever taken an Uber to a hotel that's about 20 minutes away and then text your friend and be like, oh, where are you at?
Yeah, that's definitely something I would do.
This is before Uber with him, so there we go.
Yeah, exactly.
By default.
That's before Uber with him. You don't have a
some people don't
excuse.
pass out on the toilet much like some other people do. So, you know.
Done that, been there.
All right, so wrapping up here, we have a Patreon. So, with our usual shilling for it, for as little as $2 a month, you can ask any question you want for every single Power Hour podcast. So we have a couple questions this week, and Ian, feel free to play along.
I'll play along.
First question we have is from Game Whisperer, and his question is, what game is your nemesis? The one you intend to best one day, but you can never do. I can't read right now.
Yeah. So basically, what game have you always intended to beat, but you just haven't done, or you really want to beat?
That's a good question. I'm just going to say, because it makes sense right now to me, I would like to beat the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game in under 5 credits.
No shit.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
I like how specific that is.
Yeah, when I look at beat 'em
credits.
ups, because I've been thinking about beat 'em ups since we talked about them, my way of looking at it is not in a certain number of lives, but a certain, and then working my credits down, sort of like how I was. And I really do like it. I've never been like Final Fight. I can get through it in a reasonable number of credits. Turtles game.
Yeah. Jim, I hope you have a goddamn.
Yeah, you know what?
It's any game you own because you're a shelf collector.
God damn you, son of a bitch. but I'm a collectorist, as Pat Nane would say on the
Collectionist.
podcast.
20 games that are
Collectionist.
still in goddamn plastic wrapping. You're
Those
like,
are the ones I
play.
get from Five Below, I'll have you know.
I don't want
but-
to hear it. Go ahead.
No, for me, it's anything in the Ghouls and Ghosts and Goblin series.
You've never beat them yet?
No matter how much I play them, I just suck so bad. Like
I've beaten the first one.
I have stupid
once,
fingers with
and
them. I just
never
can't
went
do
through
it.
a second playthrough. Fuck that game.
Like it just rages me so badly, I just can't get through them.
Okay. For me, it's Bloodborne because I did Demon Souls. I did all of them. I haven't beaten any of them, I should say. But Bloodborne sucked me in the most. I really love the game, but at this stage, as we've talked about, because of hobbies, because of whatever, I don't have the time to sink into just repetitively grinding out what I need to do to beat the bosses, which is what you need to do in those games. I know that's the point of them.
Yeah.
I actually love the game, but fuck, I don't have the time to die 40 times in a row to get the XP to get my dude up to a point where I can beat those bosses. And that's a game I really want to beat. I don't know if I'm ever going to go through and beat all the bosses.
I'm similar. And it's, I mean, whether it's a hard action game, those, I do like Bloodborne, or an RPG. I like the idea of the games, whether it's hard or it's a long story. I don't have the time.
Exactly.
So
Same.
I respect the type of game it is. I have fun with them when I actually play them. I do not have the time to either finish them in terms of an RPG or get good at them in terms of like a Dark Souls.
When you start that shit and you realize, like, hey, I kind of like this and whatever, does it kind of like almost really turn you off from the game because you know you won't be able to invest and you're like, maybe one day I'll come back, and then you inevitably come back and you're like, well, I forget everything about it. Let me restart the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I have that problem a lot. It's actually why I like the Dragon Quest series, because a lot of the Dragon Quest games have an option where you can pick, and it will give you a summary of the story thus far. Which,
Oh, that's beautiful.
which means,
Which RPGs, yeah, and action games should have with every fucking game.
Yeah, all my RPGs on the Super Nintendo that like I've put an hour or two into, but I will never go back to until I don't know, I'm like 50 when I have time again.
You're never going to play those games, Jim.
You
You start the
even though
game,
that's
you
true.
you type in your little name, and then you walk 4 feet. You did a tutorial, and you're like, I played the game.
Like, just because that's what I did in Chrono Trigger, it doesn't.
You son of a bitch.
All right, next question from our buddy Gamer Astral. Do you think Sega should release a Saturn Mini, and what games would you like to see on there?
yeah, actually, that's a pretty decent idea. I would do that, and I would suggest Sonic Jam, Burning Rangers, Mr. Bones, Shining Force, get third-party stuff, Dragon Force, Vampire Savior. Oh yeah, no, that's a fine idea. I could go on.
Yeah, I didn't grow up. I didn't have a Saturn ever, which with all the shit I had, the Saturn just passed me by. So I would buy a Saturn Mini in a heartbeat just so I could experience the games finally.
Yeah.
Last thing I need is another console to collect for.
Yeah.
The Saturn, I dabbled in a little bit for emulation for that, but obviously, because of my love of Resident Evil, I'd throw that on there. The Sega Rally
Championship or whatever.
Championship,
Oh
I
yeah.
would throw on there.
Yeah. Daytona's a it's
Fuck,
a must.
what was it? The Alien Trilogy or Alien versus Predator? No, that was Jaguar.
Alien
It was
Trilogy.
Alien
It's
Trilogy.
on the PlayStation as well. But yeah, Alien
Yeah.
Trilogy.
You have it on there, yeah.
I feel like, because I have Alien Trilogy for the PS1, the long box version. I'd want to see that on there. But I'm trying to think other games that really made the Saturn unique. Virtual Fight was
You need
it
like Virtual Fighter,
2?
Knights, Daytona, Panzer Dragoon.
Yeah, that's a system, same deal. I
Shining
didn't know
Force
a single
3.
kid who ever owned it because at that point it was you weren't going to spend it, and most people just shift it right to N64 or
Play-
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So yeah, I mean,
Obviously, Ultimate 3D.
Yeah.
yes, of course. Highlight 3D.
That's a must on every list.
Virtual Highlight.
Oh, Virtual Highlight. I think that's what I meant.
But But yeah, no, the Saturn's a great system, and you start digging into it, even superficially like now, and you start listening, you'll constantly find other ones like that should be on. Fortunately, it's a really expensive system to collect for.
That's the problem.
And
it's Bonnie's like system of choice. Luckily, she has a love for the good games. Most of the expensive ones she got when they weren't expensive. But she also loves the shitty games, like ID4. She loves that Independence Day. She got Congo at the last convention. She was really excited about it. And my wonderful wife owns, I think it's 3 copies of Street Fighter the movie, the game, because that's what she does.
And dude, isn't that worse on Saturn than on PlayStation? Because I have it on PlayStation, but I heard Saturn version's even worse. It's like
I don't know.
Close to the arcade.
I think it's a fucking fantastic. To be honest,
I love it. I love it on the PlayStation.
So Ian, would you say her love of shitty games is similar to Jim's?
Might be.
It's like it's just the need to start collecting for that system, and you find good prices. You're like, I'm gonna keep collecting for this system.
So,
like, why have 20 CDI games?
Yeah,
exactly. My wife bought. So she truly loves that system. She got that system when she was in high school. She's basically the same age as me. She was supposed to go to prom, and she did, but she spent her limo deposit on, instead of a limo, she spent it on a used Sega Saturn, and told the guy that she was going to prom with that he had to have his parents drive them there because she bought a Saturn instead.
So she still uses that Saturn. It broke, and after many tries, we finally repaired it with a new laser lens, and she calls it Prom Date. And Prom Date is still with us to this day.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I looked at the Saturn as similar to PS1. My penchant is for horror games, and I don't care what system. I don't collect a lot of games. Jim is the collector between us, the shelf collector, as I call him.
God damn you.
But I will say, like, I saw they have a lot of similar games, like, what is it called? Not D.
D2. D is great. I love. Actually, I got her that for Christmas like 3 years ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and there's like a whole lot of games like that are on the PS1 as well. That for me, that's what I would hope for. But I know the mainstream people probably wouldn't want to play those games. Mm-hmm. So that's where I would always go to as far as a Sega Saturn Mini. But here's my question, and it could be a completely stupid question. Does Sega still own the rights to sell their systems like that?
Yeah.
Like, would they do that?
Yeah, they can.
I mean, they own the IPs for the games. They just never use them.
Yeah.
Like, because at that point, if they were going to do the Saturn, then in theory, they would do a Dreamcast, too.
You'd think.
Yeah.
Because then you could do, like, Power Stone and all the other shit that for the Dreamcast.
That.
Like Shenmue and whatever, but...
I think Capcom owns Power Stone, though.
Yeah, Capcom owns Power Stone.
Oh, yeah.
Capcom's not going to do anything.
But I mean, we can get Clockwork Knight 1 and 2. That's a compromise.
Woo! Also, Bug.
Bug 1 and 2. Hell yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, the Saturn's one of those systems that I've played a handful of games. I've never been like overly impressed to a point. But then again, just because I've never had anyone like you said, like your wife Ian, she had it. You've probably played way more than we have. So you are more familiar with it. But, I mean, honestly, if you're comparing it to the PS1 or some of those R systems, is it really like a knockout of the park like the PC Engine or the Genesis? Is it unique on that level, or is it just kind of like, it's okay?
My take is this. It's sort of unique like that on PC Engine Genesis level. But Sega made really good first-party Saturn. The PlayStation Classic failed by trying to appeal to everyone. I think Sega at this point, especially when you look at like the game list for their recent Sega Mini, I think they know
it's fantastic.
I think they know what people who would buy that want from it, and I think they would make the game list on a Saturn Mini, and same with the Dreamcast Mini. I think they would make that hard to turn down. As much as I loved the original PlayStation, I didn't love it for Sony's games. I loved it for all the third-party stuff. What I love about the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast are the games that Sega made for it, and those are going to be the easiest ones for them to put on the system without having to worry about third parties. So I think they could make it a very, very appealing system if they did a mini.
Oh yeah, I mean, like Sega, they were smart enough to do like the translated Monster World 4 and Tetris, and the dice that wasn't released. So even for people like me, who's a collector, it's like all this shit that's so niche.
Collector.
God damn you! There's so much shit that's niche and like hard to find and stupidly expensive that will still draw anyone who likes Sega in, either the casuals or the hardcores.
Yeah, they know who they're aiming at. They know how to put a few things in there that are going to really grab, I don't know, people who normally wouldn't buy a mini. It's like when
it grabs everyone.
Yeah, it's like when Nintendo did the smart thing with the SNES Classic, and they threw Earthbound, but also Star Fox, Star Fox 2. Mm-hmm. They gave
Star Fox.
They gave someone other than the casual fans a reason to be interested. Put something on there that would only appeal to people who are really
right. And plus, for collectors, the only way to have an official, legitimate Star Fox 2 in their collection
is by having the Super Nintendo Classic.
Yep.
All right.
And actually, one last Patreon question.
All right.
Because I forgot to put it into our tiers, so everyone had a chance.
God damn it.
Fuck, marry, kill, Navi, Slippy Toad, or Roman Bellic.
Who's Roman Bellic?
He apparently
Grand Theft Auto 4.
4, yeah.
GTA 4, like the brother character.
Okay.
Or the cousin.
He's the annoying-ass cousin, right?
The cousin, yeah.
All right, fuck, marry, kill.
Fuck Navi, marry Slippy, kill the Grand Theft Auto.
All right, wait. Hans.
Yeah, I'm going to go kill GTA, fuck Slippy, marry Navi.
Okay, so I got to think about that. So Navi is the little fairy.
The
elf.
fairy from Macarena.
Yeah, from Macarena. Slippy's annoying ass frog, and Roman's the annoying ass cousin. Shit. Fuck, marry, kill. I guess I fuck Navi, even though I don't know anatomically how that works.
Oh, you make it work. That's how it works.
Slippy, fuck. I guess Slippy you kill just because he's a frog, and Roman you marry because at the end of GTA 4 he has money. I don't even. I want to kill them all, to be honest. I don't even fucking know how to answer this.
That's the point of the question.
I know.
It's to put us on our
guess
toes.
Navi's fuck. Roman marry and Slippy kill just because his goddamn annoying ass voice during every mission.
So that's why I said fuck, because you get in, you get out, and you never talk to him again.
Right, exactly. I agree with this. You
But
fuck,
Jim, that's not your style.
you fuck Slippy. Get it?
And look, for me, it doesn't take long anyway, so.
You get it
no
over
matter
with.
what, I have to hear it for maybe about 36 seconds, and then it's over.
Yeah,
so.
but Slippy,
just-
like for the rest of your
You
for
fuck
rest
the
of your life,
frog. You fuck the frog, and the frog is gone. Navi,
that's what
you marry Navi.
You're
You
marrying Navi.
You marry Navi.
We're marrying Navi.
Because then
She's helpful.
because you don't have to worry about trying to fuck her then, because marriage doesn't always mean sex.
But she isn't going to be bugging the shit out of you every single day of your life.
Listen. God, she is like a real woman. Listen.
Damn it, Jim.
Oops.
And I just don't care about the Grand Theft Auto character.
Hold on.
I've
one
actually
second.
never played 4.
Neither have I.
All right, so Ian.
Yes.
So you're saying you want to marry Navi. You don't think she would? I mean,
Okay, no, you're right. I'd figure out how to fuck Navi. I'd marry Slippy and try to fix him as much as I could. Get him into therapy or something, and then I would just kill the gangster.
I don't know, man. I feel like Navi, Slippy, you'd be going like, even if you want to go to the supermarket, he'd be like, "What do I do now?"
But that tongue game, though.
He'd be bitching.
True.
Really, Jim.
True.
Well, when you marry it, the tongue game goes away, as we all know.
But
So
like I said, at least the cousin, what was his name? Roman. He's got money in by the end of GTA 4, so at least you could be
money is good.
comfortable. So you could be like, "You stay home. I'm gonna avoid you." I don't know. That's a fucking weird one. Who asked that?
Ryan. or
God damn
Geek
it.
USA.
Couldn't even give us one solid choice in that.
That's the beauty of the question right there.
Yeah.
Fuck.
There are no good answers.
Fuck.
Except for the one I did, obviously.
I don't know about that, Jim.
All right, so that does it for all the Patreon questions. Ian, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Amazing guest. Had a hell of a time talking to you. For anyone watching this, we have to stress once again, please download the audio version because we have so much more content there than made it to this. And Ian, please feel free to plug all of your stuff.
All right, so check out the CUPodcast, Yokoi Kids, and I do believe, I didn't mention this earlier, I do believe I might have something coming out next week, Saturday, on YouTube, that no one knows about, and I'm not telling you
Really?
either. Yes.
Hot scoop.
Yes. Hot
Can
scoop.
you give us a little hint as to what it pertains to?
It might pertain to food.
Okay.
Ooh.
Should we say everyone to follow you and tell me if I fuck this up, but the Pixel Sickle?
Oh, yeah, sure. If you want to read my inane bullshit, at PXL, it's PXLSICLE. I do Twitter mostly, and not much else, but I'm also on.
Yeah, and obviously, if you're watching this video on YouTube, look below. We have every link for Ian below. Chances are you know him way better than you know us, and like Jim said, we really appreciate it, Ian. Like, we love having you on, and hopefully in the future we can have you on future episodes if you're free. With that being said, Ian.
Oh, we also owe him a few beers next time or too many games that he can
for
make
sure.
it.
Next time we see
By
you,
far.
we're all getting fucked up together.
Sounds good, and
But-
yeah, I'd love to do this again. Let's see. Let's see if we can do it within another year.
How many beers did you get through, Ian? through this podcast?
3.5.
I respect that.
We did 5?
We're at 5. So
Mine were 16
Till next-
ounces though, so
That's a good point.
you beat us.
Got a good point.
There's no doubt you beat us. All right, everyone. So thank you again, and until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
cheers.